So today I want to talk about a film called Gone to Earth, made in 1950. It's a well-discussed film in folk horror lore, but there's a question, is it really folk horror? Or, as I would argue, is it folk drama? In this film, I'll be arguing that it is really an encapsulation of the wild hunt, and that both tropes feel throughout the film. And I've done a bit of research, which I'll share later, which I don't think has been come across by anybody else. So the film is based on the book by the same name by Mary Webb in 1917, and it's filmed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, and starring Jennifer Jones as the gypsy-like Hazel Woodus and David Farrar as the squire and leader of the fox hunt pack, Jack Reddin. The year is 1897. We're in the Shropshire countryside near the town of Much Wenlock. The film opens with a fox being pursued by a fox pack, and it runs to ground in a burrow, and a huntsman shouts out, "Gone to Earth," and then the opening credits start. Now, the phrase "gone to Earth" is a hunting term, which means that the fox has escaped, it's gone underground, and the hunt is over. The fox is safe for that period of time. We then cut to the credits, and the opening scene after that features Hazel going out looking for the fox, which she calls Foxy, rescuing it and taking it back to her cottage. We then cut to Hazel going out looking for the fox, rescuing it, and this scene full of the soundtrack is of the hunting sounds and animals screaming. There are shots of various animals panicking and running, rabbits and farm animals, and it's very evocative of the sound, of the impact of being hunted by the wild hunt. Throughout the film, there are various folkloric elements, and this comes up very early in the film when Hazel, having returned to her cottage, she gets out her exercise book, her mam's spell books and charms, and she reads an old spell charm in it called Old Samson's Rhyme. If you hear the death pack cry and wicked squire go riding by, if you hear the black huntsman's horn sound between the dusk and dawn, don't you never turn your head unless you want to drop down dead. Again, this is a specific reference to the wild hunt, or the black hunt as it's called, and this is what then resonates throughout the rest of the film. The next important scene is Hazel has gone to the local town and she's been delayed, and she has to walk back at night. And again, it's a very eerie, very powerful, evocative scene. And for some reason, there's an eye watching Hazel. It's just a very short clip, and it's never really explained. It's watching through wood. It's never really explained. It's very reminiscent of the same sort of scene in Blood on Satan's Claw that was filmed later. And anyway, because of the eerie sense of oppression, Hazel's running and she falls over. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, she's rescued by the local squire, who stops and helps her and takes her back to his house. There unfolds a flirtatious period, but it's all very innocent, and Hazel escapes his evil clutches to hide in the shed with the servant, and in the morning she gets up and returns home. However, the squire has fallen in love with her, and from this point on, I think that Hazel becomes his quarry. He goes around asking people if they know of her or if they know of her father. He's basically hunting her down, tracking her down, trying to find her lair. Returning to Hazel, She goes home, and we next see her travelling across the moorland with her father. There's a local minister is being inaugurated, and that to provide the music. So Hazel goes along, she sings, and amazingly, surprise, surprise, the minister falls in love with her. After this, there's another scene where, again, there are Hazel and her father are going across the moorland, carrying a coffin. They're bickering a bit, and the father suggests what man would want her. She replies that she will marry the first man who asks her. And the father, being such a helpful chap, asks her to pledge that by God's little mountain, which she does. This is the first of two important aspects of fate in the film. By having pledged by God's little mountain that she will marry the first who asks her, she then takes that as relieving her of responsibility of making the choice. Fate has decided who will ask her. It is, of course, the minister. She tells the minister of the pledge that she has made, and he kindly takes up on the advantage and asks to marry her. Cutting a lot out, but basically she gets married, and the squire, on the eve of their marriage, finds her and challenges her not to marry. And she says, I'm pledged to. And the father says, a bargain is a bargain. Now the squire demands that she meets him, that she comes to meet him at Hunter's Spinney. Spinney is a little woodland copse, normally natural. And again, we have the fact that it's called the Hunter's Spinney. Equally, the pub in the local town is called the Hunter's Arms. We keep having this reinforcement of the hunt, the wild hunt. Anyway, she says she doesn't want to, she'll not meet him. But again, fate takes its own turn. Although she goes ahead with the marriage, she's seen to be less than happy. And what she then does is go back to her mother's spell book, and she reads another spell. When it wants a little of midnight, climb to the stripper stones on God's little mountain. Lay your shawl on the devil's chair and walk around it widdershins. Ask your wish. And if the undertaking is good, you'll hear the fairy music. If you hear it ever so faintly, you can go to the end of your undertaking and there'll be no tears in it. Although she's married now, she one night, having read this spell, she goes to the stripper stones and carries out the ritual. At the appropriate moment, there is music that echoes across the valley. It's her father playing the harp, but she hears it and she thinks that is it. The decision has been made. She will go to Hunter's Spinney. Again, it's not a choice of her own making. She's following the signs that were laid down by the spell. When she gets to Hunter's Spinney, there is, of course, the squire, Jack Redding, waiting for her. And as he gets off his horse, he stands on the flowers, the red flowers that had been brought. And I think this is a sign that that's the end of her virginity. That's the end of her innocence. They lie there just for a brief second, crushed on the floor as he stands on them. She then returns to the squire's house, and there's a big hoo-ha. People go looking for her. Eventually, the minister finds where she is and goes in, demands she returns, and asks why she went off. And again, she says it was fate, it was the signs, as if she had no choice herself. She even says at one point she feels like she's caught in a trap. So she returns to the minister's house. Is obviously upset with the family and the local hoity-toities who are very disapproving of her. But he stands by her and is planning to leave the village, wants nothing more to do with them. Again, Foxy escapes, is running across moors, chased by the foxhounds. Hazel goes running after him and rescues him again. And this time the foxhounds chase after her, and it is Hazel that goes to Earth. And that's the end of the narrative. Now, people have commented on The Wild Hunt briefly in relation to Gone to Earth, and Ron Hutton in an academic paper did comment on it. But what I've done is I've looked into it a little bit further, and there was an Anglo-Saxon lord just after the Norman conquest called Eadric the Wild. He, like Herod the Wake, opposed the Norman conquest, tried to fight back, but eventually tried to make his peace. Eadric was known as a huntsman, as what lords did in those days, but it's interesting that he was the son of Elfric, who owned a lot of land in Shropshire, including Much Wenlock, where this film was set. So after his death, Eadric becomes part of folklore of the area, where he's reported as leading the wild hunt. The wild hunt that goes out at night and hunts for lost souls. It is quite an interesting conjunction between folklore and the film. What we have is the legend of Eadric, the wild huntsman, the local squire, and now we have Jack Redden, the local squire, leader of the hunt, hunting down Hazel. And I don't know if Mary Webb was aware of this folklore, but it seems an incredible coincidence. And I just think it brings a little bit more richness to the film and just opens that door to it being folk horror rather than folk drama. I'm going to call it folk drama because that's what my channel is about. But I think it's one of the closest to that borderline, and I think it's a great film. So much depth to it, that I think it's well worth anybody going out and spending some time looking at. There is an American version, as I mentioned. I hope to see that soon, and I will make a video about that as well. But if you like this video, press like and subscribe and the rest, and I hope I see you, or you see me, in another video shortly. Thanks a lot.